You are standing in a laboratory, surrounded by coils sending out arcs of electricity. The air is filled with static electricity, which makes the hair stand up on your arms. Zap, crackle, zing, the bolts of electricity shoot around you and you are amazed at what you are seeing. That's what Nikola Tesla would experience in his experiments with Tesla coils. Nikola Tesla was a highly creative, advanced man who thought up things he couldn't make because the technology was not available, but also invented more items that were still used to this day. Nikola Tesla was born in Serbia, Croatia, July 10th, 1856. He was born at the stroke of midnight in a lightning storm, which was supposed to be bad luck. His mother, however, claimed that he would be a child of the light. His father was Milut Tesla and was an Eastern Orthodox priest. His mother was Duca Tesla. She was creative and had a photographic memory, which Nikola inherited. He was not formally schooled, but instead was taught by his mother. His father wanted Nikola to become a priest or join the military and go to war. He was the fourth of 5 children. He had 1 brother and 3 sisters. His brother was older than he was, and when Nikola was 5 years old, his brother Dan was killed in a horse riding accident. This was a trauma that stayed with him for the rest of his life. When he was older, he went to the Polytechnic Institution in Graz in Austria, where he studied electrical engineering. He debated with his professor over the benefit of DC or direct current motor and power, knowing that something else better must exist. DC or direct current motor spins because there is a wire in an electrical current passing between 2 magnets. As the current passes through the wire, it is pulled toward the corresponding magnet force, which makes it spin. To continue the spin, the current is reversed at the point of no torque or the point of no movement. When Nikola later moved to France, it was to work with some of the designs of Thomas Edison and his DC electrical plant in Paris. He worked in the area of power generation and mass communication, among other things. When Nikola moved to New York, 2 years later he got a job working directly under Thomas Edison. Nikola tried to give Edison some ideas, but he wasn't interested. One day, Thomas Edison said to his workers that if anyone could improve upon his DC electrical design, that he would pay them $50,000. Nikola came up with the AC or electrical current motor and electrical design a few months later. When he submitted the idea to Edison and asked for the $50,000, Edison replied, "You don't understand American humor." Nikola quit the job and, after a string of bad luck situations, spent the next year digging ditches and doing small mechanical repairs until he was able to get back into inventing. He got the idea of the AC motor when he was on a walk one day when he was still in school in Prague. He was walking along and thinking about a verse that he had to memorize when he was a child. Then he looked at the sun and realized how an AC motor would work and drew it in the sand. The motor works with 2 sets of coils that are magnetized in turn. The constant changing magnets around the motor keep it spinning in the middle of the coils. He decided to make it go 60 cycles per second, and it is still used to this day. He had invented the first electrical current AC motor and further created an AC generation and transmission technology. He applied for about 300 patents on his inventions, but most were for components for the AC motor and transmission of AC electricity. Because this was a new motor and a new method of sending electricity, as problems arose, Tesla would create a new invention to fix the problem and submit a new patent for the part. Another invention is the Tesla coil, invented in 1891 in his laboratory, New York, on Fifth Avenue. It produced high-voltage, low-current electricity. It can produce bolts of electricity. Most of the coils he had built had been small enough to fit inside a laboratory until Tesla had the idea to create a giant one. The construction of the Tesla Tower, or Wardenclyffe Tower, took the longest to build. It was his largest invention ever. Tesla had been spending time in Colorado Springs, Colorado, in a new lab. The lab was built in 1899 by Tesla and called Tesla Experimental Station. He was doing a large-scale experiment with his Tesla coil, originally invented in 1891, and found that a light in the neighboring lab had lit from the electricity his coils were emitting. He decided that he could do this on an even bigger scale in New York by building a huge tower to send electricity to the state. He didn't have the money to start constructing, so he went to J.P. Morgan to see if he would be a banker for the project. J.P. John Pierpont Morgan, 1837-1913, was a very famous rich man who helped to build and pay for railroads and major companies like U.S. Steel and General Electric. J.P. Morgan was only interested in the radio communication side of the proposed tower, but decided to invest anyway. Tesla began building in 1901. The project was abandoned in 1917 when he lost the ownership over the property because J.P. Morgan refused to fund further changes to the project in 1907. This was during the Panic of 1907 when J.P. Morgan was in the midst of trying to save the American economy from bottoming out. When Tesla came to him to ask for more money, J.P. Morgan had bigger concerns and told Tesla he had already given him more than enough to complete the original project. It was constructed on a piece of property on the shore of Long Island named Wardenclyffe. The tower was supposed to create wireless electricity for everyone in the surrounding area to use, as well as instantly transmit radio waves across the ocean. One of the problems with his invention was that he tried to take his invention to a larger scale production without even having tested it beyond the very small scale test that he had done in his lab. He had tested it even to the next level by trying to wirelessly send electricity to the next building. He would have realized his error. This invention was never fully completed and was eventually shut down and the property sold to pay off his hotel bill. He didn't have one invention that he was most proud of. He just had lots of ideas that he wanted to share with the world. He would have been more successful if, when he started a project, he made it to its full potential and sold it around the world. Since he didn't do that, he did not have enough money to pay his debts, so he lived in a hotel. Most of the business, culture, and society in which Nikola was living was one of secrecy and competition. He was always trying to be the first to accomplish his idea, and would get mad if someone succeeded where he was still trying to make an idea work. When Tesla was building his Wardenclyffe Tower, he was having trouble trying to get his idea of transmitting radio signals across the Atlantic to work. On December 1st, 1901, when his rival, Italian inventor Guglielmo Marconi, was able to transmit signals from France to England, Nikola was mad and felt that Marconi had cheated. Marconi and Tesla had been rivals since 1900s, when Nikola was the first to submit radio patents and had them approved. All Marconi's American patents were rejected over the next 3 years because of how important Tesla was to the nation. Nikola preferred to be alone, as it made it easier for him to work through his ideas and test his theories. He lived alone, dined alone, and died alone. He died in 1943 at the age of 86 in New York. He died in hotel room 3327 on the 33rd floor in the New Yorker hotel that he called his home. He was discovered by the maid, who had ignored his "Do Not Disturb" sign he had put out 2 days earlier. I wanted to study Nikola Tesla because I am interested in electrical engineering and the mechanics of machines. I think that it is important to tell his history because I want to teach others about him and all the inventions and created because we still use so many of his inventions today.